Hello everyone, I'm here to discuss the most important current affairs of today from UPSC and state PSC point of view. Today's article have been taken from The Hindu, The Indian Express, Economic Times and Financial Express. Before I begin, I would like to request you to subscribe to my channel and never miss an update. So without a further ado, let's begin. The first article that we have talks about delimitation in Jammu and Kashmir. Page 13 of Delhi edition of the Indian Express. So first let us understand what delimitation is. So delimitation literally means the act or process of fixing limits or boundaries of territorial constituencies in a country to represent changes in population. Why is delimitation carried out? To provide equal representation to equal segments of a population. Fair division of geographical areas so that one political party doesn't have an advantage over others in an election, and to follow the principle of one vote, one value. Let us look at how delimitation is carried out. Under Article 82 of the Indian Constitution, the Parliament enacts a delimitation act after every census. Under Article 170, states are also given a system to enact the Delimitation Commission. Once the act is in force, the Union government sets up a Delimitation Commission. The first delimitation in India happened in 1950 and 51. The Delimitation Commission Act was enacted in 1952. India has witnessed delimitation commissions 4 times: 1952, 63, 73 and 2002. In 2001, delimitation was postponed until 2026, when the South Indian states would have attained a population growth at par with the rest of India. As for the state of Jammu and Kashmir, after the abrogation of a special status, the delimitation of Jammu and Kashmir will happen as per the Constitution. On March 6, 2020, Delimitation Commission was set up for Jammu and Kashmir. But then, hindrances were posed by the pandemic and the exercise is now again in the news. Let us read about the Delimitation Commission in detail. So, the Delimitation Commission is appointed by the President of India in collaboration with the Election Commissioner of India. The composition of the Delimitation Commission is as follows. It comprises retired Supreme Court Judge, Chief Election Commissioner, and respective State Election Commissioners. Following are the functions of Delimitation Commission: to determine the number and boundaries of constituencies, to make population of all constituencies nearly equal, to identify seats reserved for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes wherever their population is relatively large. In case of difference of opinion among the members of the commission, the opinion of the majority prevails. The Delimitation Commission in India is a high power body whose orders have the force of law and hence cannot be called in question before any court. The next article is about the benefits of Bt cotton. So Bt in Bt cotton stands for Bacillus thuringiensis, which is a genetically modified form of cotton. Another article related to the HTBt, that is the herbicide tolerant variety of cotton, is covered in a previous video. I have attached the link in the description. So regarding this article, a study was conducted by the Indian Council of Agricultural Research titled Long-Term Impact of Bt Cotton and Empirical Evidence from North India, which surveyed Punjab in the past decade to study the economic and environmental benefits of Bt cotton. The study showed reduction in use of insecticide by volume and applications, which means that lesser people have used lesser quantity of insecticides once Bt cotton came into play. Thus, a decline in health and environmental factors related to insecticides. Bt cotton also led to reduced expenses related to insecticides. Also, cotton production has been stable over the past decade in our country, with 2015 as the only exception. The Bt cotton was adopted without incorporating it in the integrated pest management system, which caused the outbreak of whitefly in North India and pink bollworm in Western India in 2015. One must also remember that BT cotton is the only genetically modified crop allowed for commercial production. The next news article is about the National Human Rights Commission panel, which is going to probe the violence in Bengal that happened after the Bengal elections. So let us have a look at the National Human Rights Commission in detail. So the NHRC is a statutory body established under the Protection of Human Rights Act 1993. It also provides for the creation of state human rights commissions. Let us now have a look at the composition of the National Human Rights Commission. The chairperson of the NHRC is a retired judge of the Supreme Court or the CJI. The chairperson is appointed by the President on the recommendation of a committee comprising Prime Minister as the head, Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha, Leader of the Opposition of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and the Home Minister of India. The next point is really important. The ex officio members include the Chairman of National Commission for the SCs, National Commission for STs, National Commission for Minorities, and National Commission for Women. The term of chairman is for 3 years or until the age of 70 years, whichever is first, and the person who is a chairman can be reappointed after their tenure is over. The next article is from yesterday's newspaper, which talks about monoclonal antibodies. So, monoclonal antibodies are another mechanism to treat the COVID-19 infected patients, the first being convalescent plasma therapy. We'll look at both these therapies in detail. So, to fight a virus, our body creates antibodies, which are proteins. Monoclonal antibodies are artificial. They are produced through extracting specific antibodies and cloning them. Monoclonal antibodies are designed to target a specific virus or a part of it. For example, the region COV2 targets SARS-CoV-2 spike protein and is a cocktail of two antibodies. The monoclonal antibodies have been used in the treatment of Ebola and HIV previously. Compared to the plasma convalescent therapy, it is more trusted. Now let us read about the convalescent plasma therapy. So convalescent plasma therapy involves providing antibodies from a recovered COVID-19 patient's plasma. Thus, antibodies limited to the ones produced by the recovered patients can only be transferred to the new patient. On the other hand, monoclonal antibodies utilize two or more antibodies. Also, plasma from a person contains a lot of other components besides antibodies, which may cause allergy. But monoclonal antibodies are pure and homogeneous in nature. There are certain limitations cited by scientists about the monoclonal antibodies. They are mostly successful in high-risk groups with mild to moderate COVID-19. They are not approved for severe cases and cases where the patient requires oxygen. The Delta Plus variant has nullified the effectiveness of monoclonal antibodies. Let's talk about the availability and cost. So, although the treatment is available in India through a tie-up between the Swiss company Roche and Indian company Cipla, the treatment is nonetheless expensive as it is time-taking as well as a difficult process. The next article is about agricultural exports in India. So it's a good news that India's agricultural exports have reached $41.8 billion, which is 18% higher as compared to the previous financial year 1920. However, the target of $60 billion by 2020 is still a far-fetched dream. Let's look at the top 5 exported commodities. The first one is rice, then marine products, spices, bovine, that is buffalo meat, and sugar. You can also have a look at the chart given here. This article talks about rice and sugar as being a cause of concern from both economic as well as environmental point of view. The first point mentioned is rice and sugar are well-known water-guzzling crops. Now what does that mean? That means for their production, a lot of water is required. To give you a perspective, sugarcane uses 22.5 million liters per hectare over 14 months. They are heavily subsidized through cheap and free power for irrigation as well as fertilizers, especially urea. The export subsidy given by the government of India to clear the excessive stocks of sugar have not gone well with countries like Australia, Brazil, and Thailand, who have moved the World Trade Organization recently. Also, sugarcane is called lazy man's crop as it does not require a lot of care. It is less prone to pests. Thus, farmers grow it in large quantities. And then it becomes a burden on the government of India, and thus the government has to give an export subsidy to allow to clear these excess stocks. In case of rice, nearly 15% of its production cost is subsidized in the states of Punjab and Haryana. India is a water-stressed country. There are some facts and figures given in the article about how much groundwater is left in India, how much water is used in the agricultural production in India. So you can read the article and get to know about it. Not quite relevant from the exam point of view. The next point which is mentioned is that rice contributes to 18% of the greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture. The article also mentions that subsidy for rice should be replaced by direct benefit transfer, so the farmers can either focus on other crops or water efficient variety of rice. Another observation that is mentioned in the article is that the exported price of these commodities, rice and sugar, is less than the MSP or the prevalent market price in India, if freight and loading charges are excluded. So, this indicates that certain part of the public distribution system or the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana might be leaking out. The next article states that as per the UNCTAD, that is the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, India is the fifth largest FDI recipient at $64 billion for the year 2020. The state of Gujarat is the highest recipient in India. The headquarters of UNCTAD is in Geneva, Switzerland. The UNCTAD releases a report called the World Investment Report, in which the data about the FDI for both nations as well as the global data is also given. Another observation mentioned in the article is that the world FDI has plunged 35% in 2020 as compared to the previous year. Let us take this opportunity to look at what FDI is. As per the OECD, or the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, FDI is any foreign investment in which a foreign company invests in at least 10% of a domestic company's equity. If it is less than 10%, it will be considered FPI regardless of the route chosen. So this has also been seconded by SEBI. For FPI, that is foreign portfolio investment, one needs to register with SEBI, whereas there is no such need for foreign direct investment or FDI. FPI cannot hold unlisted shares of the company, and FPI is speculative in nature. On the other hand, FDI is done with a long-term intent. It is like having a control in the business of the concerned firm. The FDI contributes to the GDP of a nation and is a more stable form of foreign investment compared to the FPI. I lifted this article from the careers column of the Indian Express, where there is a Bank Boards Bureau ad. So I wanted to discuss about the BBB because there was a question in the 2019 UPSC prelims about the same. So let us have a look at the question. The chairman of the public sector banks are selected by options are Bank Boards Bureau, Reserve Bank of India, Union Ministry of Finance, and the management of the concerned bank. So the correct answer is Banks Board Bureau. Let us read about Bank Boards Bureau in detail. So the Bank Boards Bureau, or BBB, was formed after the recommendation of the PJ Nayak Committee in 2014. It functions to appoint the chairman of the public sector banks and the directors of government-owned insurance companies. The BBB comes under the purview of RTI Act 2005. It is an autonomous recommendatory body, although Ministry of Finance takes final decision in consultation with the PMO. So coming back to the previous year question. Don't you think the answer should be the Union Ministry of Finance? No. The correct answer will be option A, BBB. Because although the final decision is taken by the Ministry of Finance in consultation with the PMO, it is BBB which recommends the names. This article talks about the cooperative banks in India. It mentions about how the banks should only be regulated by the RBI and no dual control should operate. So let us first look at what cooperative banks are. Cooperative banks are established at the district level as well as in the rural areas. They are established under the Cooperative Societies Act and also under the Banking Regulation Act of 1949. As per the Banking Regulation Act Amendment 2020, cooperative banks now come under the direct supervision of RBI. Earlier, there was dual regulation under the Registrar of Societies as well as the RBI. But after the PMC bank crisis, the Banking Regulation Act was amended and hence only RBI supervises these organizations. Thus, RBI supersedes the board of directors of the cooperative banks after consultation with the concerned state governments. Earlier, this power was limited to only multi-state cooperative banks. Thus, the cooperative banks are now at par with the commercial banks. Let us look at the other important points related to the cooperative banks. Cooperative banks, with prior approval of the RBI, can issue equity shares, preference shares, or special shares to members or any person residing in its area of operation via public or private placements. Also, it can issue unsecured debentures or bonds with maturity not less than 10 years. The above two steps essentially mean that non-members can become shareholders of the bank, and this will allow RBI to merge the failing banks quickly. It is important to note that as per the Financial Stability Report of the RBI in September 2020, the NPA of the cooperative banks is as high as 10.36%. The cooperative banks also suffer from a problem of low capital base. So by being able to issue equity shares, they'll be able to raise some capital also. This article is from the Financial Express and talks about IBC and NCLT. So let us read about them in detail and then we'll get back to the article. So the IBC is the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, which was enacted in 2016 to expedite the resolution of failed businesses. Insolvency means when an individual or companies are unable to repay their outstanding debt. Bankruptcy means when a court of competent jurisdiction declares a person insolvent, thus passing apt orders to resolve it and protect the right of the creditors. Thus, it is a legal declaration of one's ability to pay off debts. So, while insolvency means that a person or a company is unable to repay their outstanding debt, bankruptcy is a legal declaration of one's inability to pay it. The maximum time limit for resolution under the IBC is 270 days. Under the IBC, NCLTs, which is the National Company Law Tribunals, adjudicate the matters related to companies, and the Debt Recovery Tribunals, DRTs, related to the individuals. Earlier, the threshold amount was Rs 1 lakh for filing a case under the IBC, but recently, in the light of the pandemic, the threshold has been increased to Rs 1 crore. Let us now look at what NCLTs are. So the National Company Law Tribunal was formed based on Justice Iradi Committee's recommendations. Each bench in the NCLT is held by a president, 16 judicial and 9 technical members. NCLTs should not be confused with NCLATs. An NCLAT is a National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, which was formed by the government under Section 410 of Companies Act 2013 and is responsible for hearing appeals from the orders of NCLTs. So if there is an NCLT judgment and a person is not satisfied, they can move it in the NCLATs. Talking about NCLATs, the decisions of the NCLATs can be appealed in the Supreme Court. Now let us look at the basic difference between courts and tribunals. So tribunals take up only the cases related to the specific matters conferred in them by the statutes or acts in which they are established. They are quasi-judicial bodies, which means that they are restricted to certain domains as per the statute or act by which they were formed. This is our last article, which states that the Tamil Nadu government has constituted an Economic Advisory Council to the Chief Minister. What is interesting to see is the constitution of it. The members are Nobel Prize winner of 2019 in economics, Esther Duflo, Dr. Raghuram Rajan, who is the former RBI governor, former Chief Economic Advisor Arvind Subramanian, former Financial Secretary S. Narayan, and a noted economist Jean Drezey, who was also one of the architects of the Manrega, which is the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Generation Act of 2005. One must also recall that Esther Duflo won the Nobel Prize in Economics in 2019 for the experimental approach to alleviate global poverty. The Tamil Nadu government has appointed the Economic Advisory Council to the Chief Minister because they are currently debt-ridden and short on funds for their social welfare schemes. So that's all from my side today. I hope you liked the lessons. Do write in the comment section if you have any queries regarding the articles of today. Thank you so much.